Adam, do you think your party has got cleaner hands so far as expenses, scandals are concerned than the other two?
I do believe that our party does, because I think perhaps partly by virtue of not having been as big as in the past, we didn't have the publicity, we weren't given the chance to possibly delve so deep into scandal as the other two did, but we have learned from their mistakes. It would be wrong to say that the Liberal Democrats were completely clean at the election. Stories did come out, but the stories regarding the Liberal Democrats were much fewer, and they were also much less in magnitude. And further to that, the Liberal Democrats have always been very strongly, upheld the belief of clean politics, of being open to the public, as it were, making sure that the public knows what's going on and that everything is fair and above board.
In 2005, your party received a donation of £2.5 million from someone who was subsequently convicted of fraud. That donation was not handed back. Is that an episode on which Liberal Democrats should reflect with pride?
I don't think it's one that we should look down on, because we did not know that the money had been acquired fraudulently when it arrived to us. We believe that we were above board. We made sure that everything was checked through. We made, in our eyes at least, and to our satisfaction, it was all.
But you didn't feel the need to give it back?
No, we didn't feel the need, because there was no guarantee that that was necessarily fraudulent money that had been given to us. We had put it to good use. Yes, by the time the whole affair had come out, the money had been put forward, and we made sure that it was put to good use. And we have used that instance in particular to ensure that everything that we get is cleaner, is tighter. But as I said, we do not believe that, given that we were not aware that the money was fraudulent.
So, looking to the future, how would your party set about trying to rebuild confidence in politics and the political system and in politicians?
Well, the first thing to do is ensure that our key flagship policy in this area is to allow the public to potentially sack their MP if their MP is caught to have broken rules or acted corruptly. A small minority of people, in this case, can force the MP to stand down or be recalled if he has found to have broken the law. The key thing is to give people the power every day, not just on election day.
Okay. Let's turn to your party's economic policies. In your election manifesto, you promise income tax cuts, you promise increased public spending on education, and you simultaneously maintain that you're going to reduce the budget deficit. Do those things remotely add up?
We think it all can add up. We've looked at, I said, the Liberal Democrats, unlike the other two parties, have in their manifesto detailed their plans to balance the budget and help pay back the deficit that we've acquired. There are a number of ways we could do this. The first one is to cut the tax loopholes, which the very wealthy often exploit to avoid paying taxes. The other way is to introduce new taxes, most importantly of all, possibly green taxes. So, for instance, regarding airlines, we will now pay per plane. We would make people pay taxes per plane, not per passenger. So, a passenger flying on a very economic flight would pay considerably less than a businessman in his own private jet. Those would be those ways. We'll have the mansion tax on any mansions over £2 million. So we would readdress the tax system, but also introduce new taxes to help ensure that not only for a greener Britain, but for a fairer Britain as well.
The Institute for Fiscal Studies has said in the last day or two that none of the three parties has come anywhere close to making it clear where cuts would be made to meet their deficit reduction plans. Where are the Liberal Democrats going to make cuts?
The primary, as the ISF respective body, yes, the primary places we would make cuts would be, first of all, reducing any wastage, as it were, on, say, fails into, for instance, ID cards. We would scrap that idea because that still hasn't worked. It's has been a huge burden to the taxpayer. I said similar things, otherwise like things which are wasteful, things which people don't understand or don't use. Further to that, we would then look at low priority spending within the services. We wouldn't say like the Conservatives or Labour would make small general cuts across the entire board to the services. We would look at specific low priority, cut them, and then possibly when the budget is looking healthier, reinvest in them if they're deemed to be useful.
Isn't it insulting the intelligence of voters to say that cuts on scale which appear to be needed can be made or gained simply through cutting waste? Do you think that people really don't expect much sharper cuts to be made which are going to affect the quality of services? And wouldn't it be better to be more honest with them and tell them that that's on the way, rather than suggesting that waste can somehow be eliminated and then everything will be all right?
It's not so much. The thing is that when we eliminate waste, we need to look through. The Liberal Democrats will look through the budget extensively, what has been wasteful. There are some things in there which we would deem wasteful, which perhaps other parties may not. ID cards, we deem to be a huge unnecessary burden. So,
given the character of your economic policy, would you find it easier as a party to enter a post-election coalition with Conservative or Labour?
So looking through the parties, we deem that it may, between the two there, we do have some radical differences between the two. We always have that, we always will. Where we want to reduce taxes further, raise the tax rate up to the tax rate up to £10,000. With regards to who we would side with regards to possibly trying to break up the banks, we may find it slightly easier economically to side with Labour on that issue. So Conservative tends to rely on banking a bit more. It was the Conservative government of the 1980s which did place Britain under such reliance on this banking sector. So in that regard, it could be Labour, but given the very wide stretching ability, it would not be too strong either way.
Would you not come out clearly and unequivocally and say we would prefer to enter into a coalition with Labour or Conservative, whichever it might be? Don't the electorate really need to be told that?
I'm not quite prepared to go after that yet. I mean, we want to keep the possibility open.
Why aren't you?
We want to keep the possibility open of going either way in an election. Should something else come out at the last moment, we want to be able to turn around and say we have the choice. We haven't always said from the open we're going to go with Labour or Conservative. If something comes which completely destroys, for example, the Tory story, so we find a very dark skeleton is found in David Cameron's closet, for example. We don't necessarily want to then be affiliated with that, but likewise the same could happen to Labour. We want to keep our options open. We don't want to say at this stage we want to side with one in case something happens and we then can't side with the other. We want to make our own decision based on what's happening at the time.
Okay, let's turn finally to your education policies. Liberal education policy, as far as I can make out from your manifesto, is to cut class sizes and introduce, where necessary, one-to-one tuition of pupils. Is that it?
No, there's much more to that. Of course, there's the university tuition fees, abolishing them, which will be done over the space of 6 years if we get into power. So, identifying any special education needs by the age of 5, so, and then ensuring that teachers are properly trained to deal with those, should they need to teach any pupils with these. We're going to readdress the curriculum and testing in schools so that it's fairer and more accurate as well.
Let's go back to tuition fees. If you cut tuition fees, aren't you giving, in effect, a huge handout, because most university students are from middle classes, to comparatively well-off middle-class people?
Well, in that case, we're giving help to everyone, because middle classes should be able to, or we would expect to be able to afford university anyway, or have means of funding it, whereas the lower classes wouldn't. But by making university free, we would help encourage social mobility, help encourage those from the lower classes to take on further academic studies, further their education in a time when further education is becoming ever more important for more specialised jobs. That is crucially important.
It's another big expense though, isn't it?
It is another big expense, but we figure it is one that will pay off for it, that will eventually pay itself. We need to spend money to make money. If we can have a very well-educated workforce, then we can send them into very technical and very academically demanding jobs, but we can set that as our standard level. From that, they will then generate more income back to the country through these higher wealth, higher income jobs that they can